In the studio with me, Jack Bell. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
So you're in good shape for 100, aren't you?
Well, I could be in better shape, but I don't like being like this. The mind is okay, but it's the body that gets weaker.
Well, it's probably fair enough at 100, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
but
sure.
seriously, you're going well.
I'm no worries at all.
That's good. Do you remember enlisting? Why did you sign up?
Well, before the war, I joined the Australian Militia Forces in the artillery, 1936. And I was a gun sergeant, acting gun sergeant. I could hit with a 25-pounder anthill over a small hill, 3,000 yards away, with ranging shots. Oh, they were very good in those days. They had outposts, blokes sizing up for you. So I thought, well, when war was declared, I said to my mates, well, blow this, I'm going to go up in the air. We're a bit more difficult to shoot down. Now, the whole brigade of the 5th Field Brigade joined the 7th Division. And every one of my mates that I was in this little group, not one of them got injured. They all came back and I got shot down. So they gave me really hell after the war.
So it was 1942 you were shot down over Libya.
Yes,
How well do you remember that?
Well,
What did it feel
I
like?
remember it vividly. Well, the amazing thing that unexpectedly, British intelligence was 2 days behind. And we thought we were flying at our own country, occupied by the Brits.
Yeah.
And to fly and to pull out of brigade headquarters from a little place called Massouse. But came down through the cloud from about that, maybe 800 feet, when there was some funny noise going on outside the aircraft. It was a small arms fire where the advanced little armoured vehicles were shooting .3s.
Yeah.
And it was, to this day, I reckon there was something like coarse sandpaper or brown paper being ripped. It sort of rattled through. And then, of course, the .5s, the old Bofors guns, they got splitting around. And they were bursting around us, and they set our pet fuel tanks on fire. They used incendiaries.
Were you frightened? Did you have time to feel
Didn't
fear?
have time. No, well, then suddenly there was a huge a noise, a roar. The whole of the front cabin was just filled with smoke and light. It was incredible. And it was an 88 shell fired by one of their Ack guns. Well, at 800 feet or 700 feet by then, we were sitting ducks. And this explosion took place, and I thought, gee, if this is it, I'm gone. And all this shrapnel, I didn't really feel very much. I felt a pain in my belly, but it didn't take any notice of it.
Yeah.
And as we crashed, the second pilot took over the controls of a dual aircraft, dual seats, and he crash landed straight on the desert. Well, it wasn't far to go, but we didn't have parachutes then or not. They'd be in their use at 500 feet. You couldn't use them. And when we crash landed, by then the adrenaline had set in and I didn't feel anything. And I looked round and my mate, Tony Carter, was right beside me where that chair is now. And I could see he was bleeding profusely. And there was a great hole in the cabin area.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, the first pilot got badly hit in the right leg and he had to have it amputated the same day. And shrapnel went through the cabin wall into the aircraft back and took off the arm of one of our replacement pilots.
Goodness
It was incredible. So
But your mate Tony Carter was killed, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I went over to him when we crash landed and felt that he was gone. And the second pilot called, Jack, can you help me get this first pilot, get Pluto out? So he'd opened the escape hatch in the front cabin. And I went outside the aircraft. And as I went out, I clutched on the side of the aircraft because it was red hot and I burnt my right hand. I didn't feel it. It was just, but I left the skin behind. It was just glued to the...
How old were you at this stage?
22, I think.
Going through that at age 22.
Oh, 24.
But seeing a good mate killed, going through that 20.
It was horrible.
How did you? And you were badly injured yourself. How did you survive?
I don't know. The compassion showed to me by the German field medical staff was fantastic. I was operated on by, would you believe, a Harley Street abdominal specialist, a German. who was told by his father after the First World War, he should go to England and get better training.
Oh, and he happened to be serving with the Germans, did he?
Well, he was going backwards and forwards to Germany on consultations in August 39. They wouldn't let him out. And he said, Jack, they don't trust me, you know. I'll never be in charge. But 2 German pilots before me were shot down by Hurricane at .5.
Yeah.
Neither survived. I'm the 3rd on the operating table. Now, I was badly injured. There's no doubt about it. I had shrapnel through my right leg, up through my abdomen, shoulder and arms. Huh. And I got a bit of a scratch on my head, but that was nothing, only a bit of a scratch.
You still got a scratch on your head.
Yeah. And why he saved my life when he could have snuffed it, I don't know. But that was compassion showed by he's just an ordinary German bloke. He was happy, like we are today. It's incredible.
How did you survive in captivity? Was it tough? I mean, we hear a lot of the horror stories what the Japanese did. The Germans weren't that bad, were they?
Well,
not as bad.
No, I wouldn't say they were anything like the Japanese treatment at all whatsoever. If you can imagine a cattle station, there's a barbed wire fence around the cattle there. Well, we were in that zone.
Enough food though?
No. I mean, well, for instance, one day in Germany, we got 6 horses' heads and a forequarter of pig for 250 men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only trouble with the horses' heads, we only got the skeletons. Now, there's nothing on a skeleton very much in meat, but it's meat with bone.
Where were you liberated from when the Allies came?
The Russians liberated us, or recaptured us, whichever you like, on the 23rd of April, 1945.
Yeah.
And when war finished May the 8th, we were in a little place called Rezag. Now, we decided, 5 of us decided we're going to get away from the Russians and get back to the American lines because they were across the Elbe near Halle. And one of the boys spoke, a chap named Corporal Parker, he spoke German, so it was quite easy to get lifts with the troops. Now, the Russian troops were every bit as good as we were, or they, Americans, or the British, and they helped us on the way, gave us lifts in trucks and whatnot. And we got to the Elbe, and this big US Army top sergeant sitting there with stripes all over his arm, and he said, come! And where they made their mistake, though, to us, they gave us full ration of their rations to eat. Of course, we all got dysentery.
Oh, of course, you're coming off. Jack, you haven't talked about it much over the years. Have you suppressed it, or has it just come back?
No, in 1987, our daughter Sandra said to me quite clearly, Dad, Mum knows nothing, I know nothing. For goodness sake, write it down. Well, we used to go to the Gold Coast for 3 months holiday in the winter every year, and it took me 3 years to write it. And I wrote it, just longhand, not grammatically correct.
No.
And when I brought it back, it was about 8-page field pages. And a friend of mine typed it, and I gave 1 copy to each of our kids and grandkids, and 1 to him.
But why hadn't you talked about it before?
It's called PTSD today. In those days, it was called anxiety state.
So it really
nobody understood it.
It had knocked you around.
But where we were better off was that there were so many prisoners of war came back that around Australia you used to see each other, and we'd go to people would come to go. I'd come down to Melbourne. We'd have little parties together, and we could talk. But we never told our wives anything.
I had a couple of, I call them mates who are in Changi. I took them back to Changi a few years ago, and they both told me when they came back to Australia, their families had been told not to mention it to them.
That's right, exactly the same as us. We were told not to speak. The doctor, as we disembarked from Brighton in England, said, you are going home to Australia, get on with your lives. Your life expectancy is between 50 and 60 years of age. You are not to discuss your problems with your families.
Well, you got it wrong on 2 counts. 50 to 60, here you are 101.
Well, unfortunately, for the last prison camp I was in, there's only 155 Australians and 22 to 35,000 men at various times. And there's only 1 of us living in Melbourne and 1 in South Australia, Normie Ginn. There's only 2 left.
Those years of, what we now call PTSD, Was it hard to live with, or did you just get on with
Tough.
life?
Look, you got on with it.
Yeah.
What did you do? Drank that brown stuff, you know.
Had a beer or two?
Hydrogens.
Yeah.
Try and cover it up. You bloody had fun, laughed, and stuff, but it was always there. Nightmares at night time, which my wife, without our wives, really, I don't know how we got through it all.
How long you been married?
65 years this next month.
Well done. Well done.
3 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
So you got on with life,
Yeah.
but it was always there because you've had
Always there.
you've had a successful, apparently happy life.
Very, but I still have nightmares.
Still now.
Even now, not every night, and I thrash the bed and I pull the bleed clothes round and give her a smack and all. You don't know. Now, I spoke with Harry Moffat yesterday. He does exactly the same. Now, he's a Afghan veteran.
Yeah, I know veterans who do it from those.
I
From
do.
recent-
And I said to him, I said, Harry, look, he was apologetic. I said, you can't help it. You'll have it for the rest of your life. Just get on with your life.
What do you dream about? Do you know?
Haven't a clue.
You just react.
Originally, I used to dream about trying to get back into a prison camp or getting out of a prison camp, but nowadays I don't really know what I dream about.
What's the message here, Jack, for people listening?
Show compassion to your fellow person, friends and your mates. Show compassion to everybody. There's no such thing as enemies. They're people just like we are. And I'm a firm believer in compassion, tolerance and respect. And I've brought my family under those 3 words. And our daughter's brought her family up the same. Hopefully for a better world. That's all we can pray for.
That's why you went to war. No?
Exactly.
Now
There's no good in going to war. There's no goodness in it whatsoever. None.
I've never met a veteran who thought there was.
You wouldn't. Not even the Jap boys would even contemplate thinking that war was good. What? Never.
But it's a privilege to meet you. All the best. What's on today?
Well, 11 o'clock is service at the Campbell RSL.
Brown stuff? Have the odd beer?
1 or 2.
I hope you sleep well tonight. Thank you,
Thanks
Jack.
very much, Neil. Thank you for allowing me to come in today.